Well, hello there, Retro PC Durham. It's Chris here with another video. We've got another tower machine to take a look at, this big black monstrosity. Front end here, we've got a multi-card reader with a USB port, our big, giant, clicky power button and reset button. There's LEDs locked behind the sides here for the drive activity, etc. And then just on the side here, we have a set side panel with audio USB ports, and then there's a push out here for a Firewire IEEE 1394, of which there isn't on here. A little bit of ventilation on the rest of the side panel, and then move around to the back here. We've got our power supply, our system board here with, you know, your standard output layout, and then a discrete graphics card with dual DVI and an S-video output, and then we've got a smaller fan fitting into this spot as well. So let's open up the case here and I'll show off a little bit of what we got inside. Hey, what's inside? Side panel removal. Comes away nice and easy. And we'll take a look at our guts. So, pretty sparingly, given the amount of case space that we have, we've got this light-on power supply in here, which I believe is like 218 watts, so very low power, but still enough to be able to do what we're doing here. This Gigabyte GA-B75M- or slash GA-B75M-S system board. We have a Pentium G620 processor on this, which is hooked up with a pair of 1 gig DIMMs, so 2 gig total memory, and then an 8800 GTS, nice classic graphics card. And then we've got a SATA hard disk drive to pair along with this. Now, a couple of issues that I had with this system, mainly the motherboard, for some reason will not accept anything other than a maximum of 2 gig of RAM. It supports up to 16 gig. But it won't run, will not post with anything other than 1 gig or 2 gig installed in the system. So, you know, I tried a bunch of stuff. I tried cleaning it a bunch of times. I looked up online. There's no BIOS revisions for this. I checked another processor that fits in this slot. This is a Sandy Bridge series, LGA1155, I believe. So I did have a i5 2400 processor, I believe it was, that I put in this and had the same issue. So it's not the Pentium processor that's the problem, it's the motherboard that's the problem. So we're stuck with 2 gig of RAM, but that's not a bad, necessarily like a game ender. Windows will run properly with only 2 gig of RAM installed, and having a good processor, which this G620 from a productivity perspective is a good processor. It handles standard Windows environment very well. No issues at all. And then we've got this 8800 GTS, which had some issues where it had like the pink screen issue going on, but a little bit of cleaning spray into the ports, the DVI ports, and massaging them around took care of that and cleaned that up so that we don't have that issue anymore. So that was resolved. And we'll see, one of the ports was still acting up. We'll see, I'll try booting it up and we'll see if it gives an issue, but I know the other one has been working perfectly normally. Anyways, let's get that door back on and we'll get plugged in and check out the system running Windows. Okay, we're all plugged in. I have the graphics adapter plugged in to the port that was giving the wonky color. And we'll see if it actually shows up again, since I cleaned that port again. Yeah, so you can see here, see how it's got this kind of purpley pink tinge to it? So when I first got the card, both of the ports were doing that kind of weird, this weird color thing. But if I switch it to the other connector, it's fine. So that's, you know, something that you may come across with an older graphics card where you get that weird color thing has gone away. It doesn't necessarily mean that the card has gone bad. It might be that the port has got some like corrosion in it or something, and that's something that you need to clean up. Now, It's obviously possible that if the port is corroded to the point where that can't be fixed by inserting some of the electronics cleaner in there and, you know, massaging a DVI connector in and out of it to kind of work it through and get that stuff pushed out, sometimes the damage is done. You might actually be able to remove that connector and replace it with another DVI connector if you want to do some of that soldering work, and that can get a card back up and running. In this case, I've got one port that's working. These systems are likely never going to have two monitors plugged into them, so this is not an issue at all. Now, we've got Windows up and running here. We're going to open up hardware info first, and we're going to see the rest of the hardware specs on this system. Now again, even though we only have 2 gig of memory installed, I did install the 64-bit version of Windows on here, and that's mainly because the rest of the system is perfectly fine for handling a 64-bit operating system. In fact, probably the slowest performance you're going to get out of this system is actually going to be the hard drive, having that SATA hard drive. So we've got a 250 gig Hitachi hard drive. As I mentioned, we've got 2 gig of RAM, 2 1 gig DIMMs installed. We have this Intel Pentium G620 processor. So this is a dual-core, non-hyper-threaded, Sandy bridge-based processor, right? It's on that LGA 1155 socket type, and we're running at 1 or 2.6 gigahertz clock capability, 1.6 and then boosting when it needs to, which is fine. And then we've got, you know, a lot of different features that have been added on in terms of the generation of this processor to be able to handle some workload requirements. Graphics wise, we've got that GeForce 8800 GTS, which is a classic old video card, 640 megabytes of DDR3. It's not going to be good for handling modern gaming, but certainly has a heck of a lot of nostalgia in terms of, you know, Windows XP and even Windows 7 gaming environments. You know, great, just a great card overall. Let's close this down, and I'm going to open up Edge, and we'll just see how long it takes to actually get itself started here. This is going to be, you know, one of the things you experience with an older machine is having the slower components, especially that hard drive, maybe possibly having the only 2 gig of memory. It's going to take time for the computer to get to doing that job. In this case, opening the browser up. But generally speaking, once you've got an application open and running, you're not going to have those issues. All right, so we're now into Edge. Now it could be as well, because Edge has got all this crap on the front page, right? Oh, I want to show you some background with information, and who cares? I don't really want any of this stuff. That could be part of the problem as well, that it's trying to load all that information up at the front. If I change the home page to just be like Google or something, it probably wouldn't be causing as much of that issue in terms of having a lower performance requirements loading page. Here we are with YouTube loaded up here, and we're going to go search quickly for Crab Rave. Get that loaded up, and you can see here again some of the slowness in terms of getting everything loaded up and ready to go. Now I'm going to pause. I'm going to force 1080p. We're going to go full screen. I'm going to let it buffer for a minute. And this is what I wanted to show you is you've experienced how slow the system runs, right? Edge takes forever to load up, and then we're trying to load up the YouTube main page. It's trying to load up all those ads, and all that stuff is kind of, you know, taking its sweet time. Now, once I get this buffered here, let's just start this now, and we're running at 1080p, and look at the performance that we're going to get out of this, right? Smooth, no slowdowns, no skipping or hitching. We've got like 1% or less frame drops, and that comes with having a good processor being able to handle doing the requirements that the YouTube streaming video needs it to be able to handle on the compute side. So that's why I said, you know, having only 2 gig of RAM, and in this case having an older video card that's still a good video card, but an older video card, and even having an HDD instead of an SSD, some applications, you know, they're really reliant on how good the processor is. And in this case, this processor is able to handle streaming video at 1080p without any issue at all. Now, if you wanted to pop that up to 1440p or 4K, you're going to run into issues, obviously. And that's mainly because the processor was never designed to be able to do that type of stuff anyway when it came out. So being able to handle 1080p is really all you need to worry about. The graphics output of this is only going to be stressed by a 1280 by 1024 19-inch monitor anyway when it goes out to its donation. So what we're running here at 1080p, you're probably going to be running at 720p most of the time natively with a letterbox on that anyway. So it all works out. So another great machine, all fixed up and ready to go. We're going to get this one donated as soon as I can possibly get out to make that happen. I really appreciate you spending the time to check this out with me. I hope you're staying safe and healthy, and we'll catch you in the next one.